Here we go, Broncos country. That's right, it is orange or blue today. 2. Nothing like a little OBT2 to set the night, right?
The deuce.
The deuce. Number 2, numero dos, right?
At least we're not talking about dropping a deuce.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, wait, I just did.
You just did. You
I went there.
You go. We might go there. Who knows? Might get kicked off our very own show tonight. We're feeling it. We're saucy. I think
when they go low, we go lower. I am hangry. Yes.
Oh yeah.
How'd you guess? Because I told you before we came on live. That's why. That's how you know I'm hangry.
Right. And well, I can identify hangry myself because you have to deal with me on a daily basis when I'm mainly hangry. As someone who eats on time, better not forget to eat on time. It's orange blue today. 2. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason talking about the scouting combine. What is up, YouTube? What is up, Broncos country? Thanks for getting that for me, Mase. We got to talk about the linebackers.
You're welcome. Broncos
talking to linebackers today. And Mase, you're in on the discussions with the linebackers as they talk to the media today.
Yeah, I mean, well, the linebackers met the media today. They did a lot of their linebacker interviews Monday night. Like that was basically the big kickoff to the week for the Broncos. But I mean, it's a full-on search. It's Josiah Trotter from Mizzou. It's Jake Golday from Cincinnati. It's Sonny Styles, who isn't going. Look, Sonny Styles is probably not going to be anywhere on the board anywhere close to 30. But they talked to him. Yeah, they talked to C.J. Allen. They talked to Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. I mean, so in other words, like, okay, doesn't this sound like tight end last year and running back last year? Like they are. Even with Styles, because, and you correctly alluded to this when we were getting ready to do this show, that last year they met with Ashton Jeanty, even though they knew that unless it was possible to make a trade up, an audacious move up, they weren't going to get Ashton Jeanty. And 2 years ago, they met with Drake May. They met with Jaden Daniels. They met with Caleb Williams, even though as it turned out, there was no chance that they were going to get any of them. You just do your due diligence. Now, it's a little different with Sonny Styles because, I mean, you could see a range where he gets to what, like pick 12 maybe? That's probably about as low as it's probably as low as he goes. Yeah, I'd say. So, I mean, I guess it's possible, but unlikely. And I would actually say one of the things that you kind of, you kind of try to, keep your ear to the ground and listen for stuff. I'd say one thing about that I've picked up on here the last couple of nights is I'd be genuinely surprised if the Broncos went up that far. I could see them going up in the draft. Certainly, I don't think they're going up into the range to where Sonny Styles is a reasonable expectation for them to draft. I don't. Part of it is just how much it would take, and I don't get the sense that the Broncos are willing to sacrifice an extreme amount of draft capital in order to make that sort of move here at this point. We'll see, but I don't get that sense at all. Again, it's like Greg Penner said, and even George Payton put a qualifier on aggressive yesterday. Remember, Greg Penner said opportunistically aggressive last month. George Payton put a qualifier on aggressive yesterday. Think of that in terms of where the Broncos are going to be and how they attack things the next several weeks.
Yeah, and I would say, Mase, before we jump more into linebackers, 19 from 30 to 19, something with Carolina, that's probably about the stretch I would see him going.
Yeah. And that's probably, if they're doing that, that's probably more of the tight end conversation than the linebacker conversation, because I highly doubt Styles is going to be there. Though, then again, he didn't know about no one thought Jahdae Barron would be there at 20, and there he was. So, we'll see. course, with Jahdae Barron, of course, last year, remember, they didn't interview him here at the Combine. It was a Zoom interview that they had. So he wasn't a Combine interview. He wasn't even a top 30 interview in person. They just had a Zoom conversation. They felt great about the chance to meet with him, but they're like, oh yeah, we probably won't get him. And lo and behold, they did. So make of that what you will.
Yeah. As Yoda always says, the draft is always in motion, or at least he said something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, we know
always in motion. The future is what he said, as you know.
Linebackers, Styles not. Yes, always in motion. Yes. That's in my Jedi Council, my Jedi Journal, Mase. I don't know as a young Star Wars fan if you had a Jedi Journal, but I think I still might have it. Anyway, it was a diary, everybody. Dear diary. I would like one of these inside linebackers, please. And I told Dover today, I said, if it comes down, you're at 30 and there's a linebacker you like and a running back you like, I'm taking the back because the class dries up quicker. I'd imagine you feel the same way, Mase?
Yeah, I mean, with inside linebackers, I mean, because, I mean, you can even get into, off kind of the first cluster of like 5 or 6 guys, and you can start talking about a guy like Kyle Lewis from Pitt, for example. I mean, you've got quality there. It's again like the tight end class last year. You've got quality that's going to linger into day 3, and you're going to be able to find some people and prospects who can help you pretty deep into this draft. So it's the time to strike. I mean, there's a huge section of Broncos country that I feel like has been begging, screaming, pleading for this team to take an off-ball linebacker over the last several years. I mean, really, Josie Jewell, 4th round, was the last one that they've taken in the first 4 rounds of the draft, I believe. Drew Sanders, but Drew was that hybrid. Remember, he could be edge, he could be an inside linebacker. They haven't taken a pure inside linebacker since Josie Jewell, and I think that's in the first 4 rounds. I think that's going to change.
Yeah, that's going to change this year. We'll see which player it is. We know that Rodriguez is your favorite. You identified him early, Mase, in this conversation. You saw him down at the Senior Bowl. Mustache game is on point, certainly, with Rodriguez.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
He's a player that I think brings a lot to the field in terms of leadership and smarts. You want a smart ILB. Jacob Rodriguez fits that bill. And you heard him talk today. And he got to kind of show off some of those football smarts.
Yeah, high football IQ, and certainly he said all the right things when the Broncos interview came up. He said, very complimentary of it. I mean, he certainly talked about wanting to be in the system and be a part of that. Again, you're saying the right things, but you look at the two inside linebackers, and typically, one of them is going to be stronger kind of in the box, and one of them is going to be stronger in terms of dropping into coverage. In a duo, Jacob Rodriguez is probably going to be that guy who's a bit stronger, kind of going, attacking the run, but also just incredibly instinctive, makes plays on the ball, always seems to be a step ahead, always seems to be in the right spot. I'd say he's somebody that, you don't want to get too caught up in tackle numbers. I think that's something that you really probably shouldn't pay a lot of attention to, and that specific stat is overrated. But it does, it does have some value in terms of saying, okay, are you getting around the ball? Are you getting to the right place at the right time? But as you know, not all tackles are created equal, because sometimes there's a lot of drag tackles, as you know, from behind. Right. Rodriguez is that guy who's going to be able to bring some thump, but I don't think he's going to be a drag tackler. Like, I think he's a type of guy who, you might be talking about him getting 125, 130 tackles, but I don't think you'll be talking about a huge amount of them coming from behind.
Right. It's take on, like an attack, see and attack. Yeah. That's what he does. Plays downhill and he plays fast. But you can play fast when you're smart.
That's what allows him to be a step ahead. And he's got great study habits, and so some of it is instincts, some of it is preparation, and And then if you had, the old cliche that luck is where preparation meets opportunity, maybe if you look over the course of his career and what it's going to look like at the next level, in terms of, say, generating takeaways, which here's another thing. And we're talking about inside linebackers, and we're talking about Jacob Rodriguez, and he's a guy that's very good at punching the ball out. Okay? We talk, that's something that we've seen at Texas Tech. And oh, by the way, and I think we still have that here, watch that beautiful bean footage. We saw that at the Senior Bowl, just has that little punch on it right there.
How casual that was too. It was.
That's what I mean. It's just yeah. It's just something he does without. I mean, I hate for somebody. He's certainly a player who thinks like that right there. Boom, just I sound like John Madden doing it. Just like, and he it's casual and it's quick. Like what? And the guys coming around and like. And watch that punch there. Woo. You get the running back is almost like looking in the opposite direction. Like it's like he's got the timing down to where he's doing it at the optimal moment to where the running back isn't prepared for it.
Right, not going to cover it up.
Yeah, and anyway, I bring this up because you're kind of a sleuth at the combine here. Like you're listening for info. You're trying to put pieces together. I think it's part of the fun of this every year is trying to extract pieces of information. It's trying to kind of put the pieces together. So there was something that Sean Payton said on Tuesday when he met the media. It was his comment reflecting on the season, okay? I'm going to replay that. And knowing what we just discussed about Jacob Rodriguez, I want to see if you make the same connection that I did. Here's Sean Payton from Tuesday.
From my lens, we won a lot of games by one score or less, right? And I'm not naive enough to think those games couldn't have swung. And you could grab any two or three, but where's the meat on the bone? The meat on the bone exists with our takeaways. That has to improve our run game consistency, our meat on the bone relative to a number of things that we won despite maybe not being as good as others. And I think that's the only way to look at it relative to this team, writing its own chapter and getting us to where we want to go, which is obviously a game and a half further than where we went.
Okay. Takeaways, right?
Yeah, takeaways, meat on the bone. And what that says to me, Mase, is one, he knows the one-score game thing. They're probably not going to be as good. But how do you get better in one-score games? Not have one-score games. How do you do that? Turnovers. And if you run the ball, you don't allow your opponent to get back in the game and make it close. If you've got a 10-point lead and you've got, 4 minutes left and you got the back you can feed, the opponent's not getting the ball back, man. That's the strength of a great ground game.
It is. I mean, that's another show entirely, obviously, is the ground game. But the takeaways, though, like
Rodriguez is an expert.
Yes. Basically, Sean Payton knows that. I mean, they won, including playoffs at one point, they won 11 consecutive one-score games last year. Including the Buffalo win, they won 12 one-score games. You don't do that 2 years in a row. Over the course of the year, they ended up, including the postseason, they were 12-3 in one-score games. They'll probably be a regression there.
Closer to 500.
Yes, but like you say, if you play fewer one-score games, if you're doing the things to prevent you from being in those one-score games, then you're going to be able to withstand an inevitable regression. You said 500. So let's say the Broncos become a 500 team in one-score games, and say they play, instead of playing 15 one-score games, including the postseason. So they played think about it, 15 of 19 games were one-score games this past year.
Craziness.
Yes. I mean, it was they were a heart attack team. So let's say you play 8 or 9 of them, and you're 5-4 or 4-5. And I think that, I mean, if you're 5-4, you're fine. I mean, that's nothing to worry about. But if you're doing the things to ensure that you have fewer one-score games, you're going to be in good shape. And I think I think Sean Payton's got this nailed. And so you're looking, okay, who can get us more takeaways? Where can that come from? Can it come from the players we have? They'll say, sure, but can it come from getting the right kinds of players to add to the mix? Yeah. Jacob Rodriguez is one of those guys who can make you better at taking away the football. Mm-hmm. And specifically, it's interesting because we talk about fumbles. Forced fumbles was where the Broncos were really bad. Until the Buffalo game in the postseason, they were really bad. That's where they were down at the bottom of the league, is in forced fumbles. Mm-hmm. So that's a place, that's where there's a lot of meat on the bone. Someone like Rodriguez who has that ability, those instincts, the technique, but also is around the ball, is somebody who can help you there the moment he steps on the field. The question then becomes, and it's true whether we're talking about C.J. Allen, or Styles, or Trotter, or Golday, or Rodriguez, or Kyle Lewis, or anybody the Broncos draft, is the time it takes for that inside linebacker to be ready to go and develop. And that is something to which George Payton alluded to on Tuesday.
This is a pretty good linebacker class. I mean, it is a tough position for a rookie to come in and play right away, especially with some of the things we do. But yeah, I do like the depth of this class. I do. And so we'll see it. Again, it's early in the process. We interviewed those guys last night. It was a sharp group, definitely.
Yeah.
Sharp group, says George Payton. But when will the sharpness be ready?
But yeah, and that's the thing. It can be a sharp group, but it's a position with a learning curve. And so that's where what you do in free agency matters. And as you and I have discussed, the notion of Alex Singleton being back, Vance Joseph's eyes and ears being back, and being a bridge to whichever one of these players that you draft that they add potentially in the draft. And I do expect they will add a draft. But to go back to that original slide, that's C.J. Allen on the left, that's Sonny Styles on the right. But you're talking about them, or you're talking again about Trotter, Golday, and Allen. Golday, Rodriguez, Allen, Styles. All these guys who sat down with the Broncos on Monday. Okay, this is. They would have the time to ease their way into the lineup if you re-sign in Alex Singleton. If you re-sign Justin Strnad, they'd have that runway too. The thing with Singleton is it would really be clear if you had Singleton plus a drafted linebacker, you could see that passing of the baton coming. It would be a little less clear if you just re-sign Justin Strnad. However, it's interesting to think about the idea that if you re-sign Justin Strnad instead of Singleton, that the guy that you draft actually replaces Dre Greenlaw, not Strnad. And that's something to think about as well if we're talking about all the possibilities that are in play here.
You could contemplate their best combination would be Strnad, Singleton, and a rookie. And having Dre Greenlaw as a cap casualty. That's on the board as well.
Yeah. It's on the board right now, by the way, because they actually gain more cap space than the dead money charge if they cut Dre Greenlaw. And we'll go back to George Payton's comments about
Broncos, right?
Yeah, Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad. I mean, what are we doing? He didn't quite actually kind of cut himself off where he finished the word doing, but you knew the point he was making.
Yes.
That if we're, you could almost hear George certainly very strongly inferring like if we're going to build the type of team that we want to build, it's with these types of players here. And Strnad's a guy they drafted. Singleton they didn't draft, but they nurtured him to a higher level. Remember, Philadelphia did not give him an RFA tender after 2021.
Right.
So, like,
and I did believe you led him in tackles that year, right? And then
yes,
didn't,
and
they did the RFA tender.
Did not get a tender. Not even a right of first refusal level, because that's what it would have been. Because of course, he was undrafted CFL guy going through Calgary before he came to the NFL. So you have one guy who's become your team captain, and truly, Alex. He's had his struggles in coverage. We've talked about that. The numbers are what they are. He also is a guy who almost every guy in that locker room will tell you is one of the leaders of that team. And he's a captain for a reason. And he's truly a heart and soul guy on that roster. The fact that he had the ACL injury in 2024, and then as soon as possible, he's right there back on the sideline, back at every practice watching, even though he can't do anything. Back there, I mean, that's him. That's who he is. Like he always wants to be around and be a part of it, and everybody wants him around because it's a better locker room and it's a better team with Alex Singleton's presence and character in there. Yes. And then Justin Strnad, I mean, you talk about taking the long way to where he got. Drafted in 2020, injured, so the first year was wiped out. Year 2, he gets on the field and struggles against the run to the point where they're moving Baron Browning inside, they're making a trade, and so like that's all of a sudden at that point, it wasn't working. So Justin Strnad is special teamer pretty much exclusively for the following seasons. For 22 and 23, I believe it's 0 defensive snaps in 22 and 23 for Strnad. And then he gets thrown into the fire after Singleton gets injured against Tampa Bay in 24, steps in. And one of my favorite play calls of the Sean Payton era on the offensive or defensive side remains when they called that blitz for Strnad on the first play against the Jets. Yep. He's out there. He's thrown into the fire. Just all right. Get him going right away, and give him a play that allows him to kind of get his confidence right away.
Yep.
And then they re-sign him, and he plays even better this past year. And the thing about Justin is he does come up with some big plays when it really matters most. He has that clutch gene, as it were. Yeah, that's a skill too. But again, he's a guy that drafted, kind of was on the fringe, was very much a bubble player for a couple of years, and now he's earned his way up. And I think George's point is like, okay, this is what we want to be as an organization. And by the way, another person very important who believes that's what the organization should be in terms of drafting and developing is the guy who runs the entire show, and that's Greg Penner, who very strongly believes that the optimal way to have a successful operation, a sustainable football operation, is to be a draft and develop operation. So that's interesting. Like that, George and Greg have pretty good alignment there. I think George gave Greg some really kind of very, very wise advice about things when Greg came into the league as well. But even Greg knew as he was researching the NFL, looking into best practices of how things should go, that he wanted his organization to be a draft and develop organization. And keeping Justin Strnad would definitely be in that mix. By the way, though, speaking of like keeping your own free agents, when Sean Payton was on with Rich Eisen, he was talking about Adam Troutman today as well. Or yesterday, I should say. It aired today. The interview was yesterday.
Okay.
So,
yes.
I mean, but yeah, so, yeah.
Talking about his guy, Trout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't I mean, Trout may get better option and more playing time somewhere else, perhaps, especially with the Broncos added to the tight end room. But I don't think Sean wants to quit Adam Troutman anytime soon. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see him signed first wave of free agency. We'll see. It's orange blue.
And for Sean, that's his draft and develop guy, right?
Yeah.
He drafted him in New Orleans. He gets to
move up for him.
Yes, and then he gets to Denver and he trades for him. So again, someone that you've got in and you bring him up and you let him grow. It's also, and these things are also how you build culture as well, like in how you cultivate said culture too. So all these things are food for thought to consider, and it's why I think it's an interesting thing to consider at linebacker with Dre Greenlaw too, because you have George Payton saying, hey, like Justin and Alex, they're Broncos, but you're not keeping Justin without giving him a starting role because somebody else is going to give him that on the market. So if you keep Justin and Alex, you're probably parting ways with Dre Greenlaw. That just is what it is.
Yeah, and if you're keeping Justin, it's not as a mentor for a young guy. Alex is the mentor.
Alex is the mentor. Justin's the guy you're saying is going to be your starter for the next 2 or 3 years. If you re-sign him, if you re-sign Justin Strnad, that contract's going to say he's in your starting 11 on defense for at least the next 2 seasons. That's what that contract would say. Yep. Because if he doesn't get it from Denver, he's getting it from somebody else. And so that was why when I asked George about Justin and Alex, I very specifically asked it following up what he said about the linebackers and their development, and that because none of these decisions happen in a vacuum in an offseason. They all, like, free agent decisions are influenced by how the draft class is looking, how you're expecting the board to fall, how many players you like. And frankly, if the Broncos are looking toward what they want their roster to look like short and long term, and they come out of these interviews, George Payton was very complimentary about the players with whom he spoke, and they're looking at these guys and saying, all right, we feel pretty good that with that second round pick that we can get at least one of these guys we like is going to be there. And if they have that sense, then that certainly, I think, does illuminate their planning in terms of what they're deciding to do, both short and long term. And it would then come back to, okay, maybe bring back Alex as somebody to train, guide, and eventually pass the baton.
Yes, we could all see that happening this offseason. My only fear is, and it's legitimate because we just saw it a year ago, don't ignore ILB in this historic class the way that they ignored the historic tight end class. They just did. So Caleb Lohner could be a Pro Bowler in 2 years. It doesn't matter now. You avoided Aronde Gadsden. You avoided Harold Fannin. You avoided these talented tight ends that you could have had. And you avoided that historic class. Like when it's a historic class, you don't avoid it. So even if you bring back Strnad and he's not a mentor, I'm getting rid of Greenlaw, I'm bringing in Singleton, and I'm drafting one of these ILBs.
You went for the bold word there. You said historic class. So, I think it's a very good class.
Dude, we've been doing this a long time. Have you ever said great ILB class? I've been doing this a long time. I've never said great ILB class.
I think it's the best class of the last 10 years.
Okay.
At inside backer. Historic is tough. See, like historic for me is like 83 quarterbacks class.
Or 24.
That's why like last, yeah, well, that's,
Cheers
right?
To you. Bo's birthday today. Cheers to Bo.
Yeah, happy birthday, Bo. Yeah, hope you're feeling better, man. That's coming off the surgery. So, yeah, like last year's tight end class was historic. I'm prepared to say this is a very good inside linebacker class. I'm not going to use that word just yet, but it's a class where, just like with tight end, it's not the type of class that you see every day. Again, like I said, best in a decade, in my opinion. So strike while the iron is hot, get one of these guys. The Broncos are in a very good position roster-wise to where they can say, all right, let's take advantage of this class and get one of these guys. Because here's the thing, when you've got a lot of quality, that means that quality slips. And all of a sudden, it does mean something that you've got great depth of quality at a position because, say, inside linebacker 5, inside linebacker 6, you end up getting at a bargain draft-wise in terms of talent. So all these things are matters the Broncos probably need to consider as they get into the draft here in terms of settling what their plan is. But we'll see. Plans can go astray. I think the Broncos very much, wanted to get a tight end last year in the first 3 rounds. It just didn't work out. Things change.
The draft, its energy surrounds us and binds us. Let's get you some dinner, Mase. Let's get out of here so you can get some dinner. And I gotta watch the Avs and Nuggets game going on. Well, Avs right now, Nuggets here in a little bit.
Yep, so. Avs are back. So
yeah,
everyone's back. Everyone's back in North America. So get the season going again. We'll see if there's any lingering disappointment after Sunday for all those guys after. Not, at least the guys on the Canadian side certainly not coming back with what they wanted.
A pissed off Nathan McKinnon could be a good Nathan McKinnon for this team.
Hey, Gabe's probably pissed off too.
Mm-hmm.
Among others.
Yeah.
That was, it was a tough ending for everybody but the Americans.
And it's not more than Miracle on Ice. I think Dover's.
No.
We have some young cats around, Mase, and somebody asked me like, "Hey, is it better than Miracle on Ice?" I'm like, "No."
He suggested that.
Somebody did.
Okay.
It may not have been Dover, but somebody suggested. I was like, "No, dude, it was Russia. It was a machine. There was the Big Bird machine in Cincinnati in the '70s, and there was Russian hockey. They were a machine in 1980."
Cecil, my daughter's 13 years old. Even she says and understands and knows that it wasn't better than the Miracle on Ice in 1980. Of course, she also knows about the Miracle on Ice because the place where she's ridden horses in Wisconsin is run by the wife of Mark Johnson, as in the leading scorer on the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team. So yes, that's a sporting event, even though she was not around for, she's very familiar with because of that. So
you were barely around for that. I was 8.
I have no memories of it. But it's funny, I have no memory of watching it because, again, I was 3 years old. But it's such a core part of the sporting zeitgeist in this country that it's never been irrelevant. Has that. And there never will be anything like it because it was the combination of the socio-political circumstances of that moment. It was it was college kids against pros. That's the whole thing, is that every one of those Soviet players today would be in the NHL.
No doubt.
And a lot of them exceptional. That team was the best team on earth. And it was an NHL All-Star team the year before. So again, All-Stars are thrown together, take what you will, but they torn them up. They torn up the best of the NHL. So that was the equivalent. What's the equivalent? It's if you put together a roster that is, say, Matthew Stafford or Josh Allen at quarter, or Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Okay, take the best of every position in the NFL, put them on a roster, and have them play together for years. Okay, and that's what that Soviet team was. And then you're gonna have the college. You're gonna have a college all-star team, but not as even necessarily the best college all-stars, because some of those guys that were the best chose to just go on to the NHL. So they didn't have every top guy that they could have had then. So, and oh, by the way, it's not even the equivalent of a full college all-star team, because remember, a lot of the best players were in Canada at the time. So, I mean, it's probably more like if you took, say, an ACC all-star team and had it play against that hypothetical NFL all-star team that had been together for years and had the chemistry of a team that had been together for years, and somehow they won the game. Like, there'll never be anything like it in sports again, I believe. The sporting environment just doesn't permit it.
Just like there'll never be anything like Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. I'm just trying to get you to dinner, man. But we always love our conversations here with you on YouTube. To help out our Denver Sports YouTube channel, Mase, how can people do just that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mase Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey, saying OBT is a BFD. Thank you, as always, very much for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.